Oh, hello. I've been reading through the Microsoft 2024 Release Wave 1 plan. A lot of interesting things. We did an episode last year where we talked about the 2023 Release Wave 2, and it was one of our most popular episodes. So we're doing it again. So stay tuned as we go through our favorite features of the Microsoft 2024 Release Wave 1 plan. Welcome, everyone, to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your weekly source of news and updates from the world of the Power Platform and the Microsoft community, with your host, Nick Dolman and Ulrika Akabek.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I have a bad hair day, but everything else is okay, I think.
Yeah.
Except for the weather, but, one Norwegian, one Canadian. We'll talk about the weather, but not here.
Yeah, I had a bad hair day too, but you have hair to have a bad hair day, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I can tell that you have a good hair day today. It's all good. Right. So this episode is going to be all about the release notes, and I'm excited about release notes. I know that you're probably not as excited as me, but I'm so stoked when you got your MVP award back in time for you to have the release notes in advance so that we could actually talk about this and I could share them with you. So release I'm going to say this right. 2024 Release Wave 1 plan for Power Platform.
Yes.
It includes news and updates for Power Apps, Power Pages, Power Automate, Microsoft Copilot Studio, AI Builder, Microsoft Dataverse, and Microsoft Power Platform Governance and Administration. Nick, can you tell me what's not here?
Something's missing.
Something's missing. What is it?
Where did Power BI go? What happened?
Our
What
favorite
happened?
thing.
Sorry?
Our favorite thing, the thing that we know the most about.
Yeah, it's missing here. So here, that means to me that means a couple things. First off, that means Power BI is perfect, doesn't need no improvements. They're finished. Your product's done. Carry on. What I suspect, though, and we don't know. Let's just be very clear. This is something we're not aware of. Is in terms of what the plan is. So we're completely pure speculation. But I would expect with the evolution of Microsoft Fabric, it's very much becoming its own thing. It's all Power BI was already very much its own thing, very big because it spans not just Power Platform, but you can build dashboards and reports and analytics across all a bunch of different data sources and across the entire Microsoft ecosystem. So of course now with all the AI capabilities and things like that, and of course Microsoft Fabric, I think probably that's where the Power BI release plans, if one is going to exist, will probably incorporate itself into. So that's, I'm guessing, and again, purely guessing, why that's missing, or the Power BI team just didn't hit the deadlines. Who knows?
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah, we did scroll through the Dynamics one as well, the release note for Dynamics, and it's not there either. So it would surprise me more if it was there, but just to make sure. So exciting to see what's coming next for that, and if any announcement will be made, but we don't know.
Yeah.
But we do know that there are things going on in the remaining products of the Power Platform. And so we've done today what we did last time. We've both gone through the release notes separately, and then we've chosen our favorites. And then we'll see in the spirit of the podcast if we align on anything, or if we chose the same thing, or maybe we didn't. And then we'll kind of walk you through what the different things are, and be clear, just like last time and every time these come out, these are living documents. This is not set in stone, and we all know that things can happen in the real world that may mean that they push certain updates for backwards, or some new things come in, things seem to drop out. So And also the document that we're reading is a kind of a pre-release, so not 100% watertight, but it gives you an indication of what's coming. So you want to be first with your favorite for Power Apps, Nick?
Yeah, so Power Apps had a cool things. Of course, they talked about the investment areas. Of course, co-pilots are very much incorporated into all the whole Power Platform, and Power Apps is no exception. And again, a lot of the theming was about building apps with modern controls, responsive layouts, collaboration, offline by default. So all of this is evolving. We're seeing bits and pieces come through. And then the other thing that stood out for me was about enabling enterprise scale. So I know a lot of the apps Power Apps have been sort of a lot of the perception has been, oh, you can build an app to automate your own personal workflow or make your own spreadsheets easier and collaborate with your small team. But we've seen over the years since the days of CRM, this is enterprise ready. This is for the big time. And I think a lot of these investments within Power Apps and Dataverse, which we'll talk about, is really about this can be an enterprise system. And we've worked on very large systems, and you and I were on a project now that there's going to be literally thousands upon thousands of users using this platform to do their tasks. So this is really exciting. So in terms of the features, and this one is going to be released in public preview at, I believe, around June 2024. And again, this is a public preview, meaning you're able to try it out. But they talked about the security role editor and it being as easy to share as a Word document. And it's interesting because I worked on some Power Apps, some Canvas apps embedded into model-driven apps this past week on a project. And some of the users to try it out, they said, oh, well, we don't see these embedded Canvas apps, and realizing, oh, I need to go in and share, make sure they're shared with the right groups and things like that. And it really becomes a bit of a pain. So the way they're describing this is this going to make the sharing experience a lot more intuitive, a lot more easier. So it's like, hey, someone needs access to this app. This will set up like security roles to the tables and to the apps and things like that. So that to me stood out. It was like, yes, this is a big win. This is just going to remove some of those boundaries or those friction points when deploying applications to your user group.
Yeah, definitely. And it said something about an M365 style sharing dialogue or something, the one that we're used to from SharePoint and from Teams. And that is for sure a better experience. So I'm really excited to see that. And I did mark that as one of my favorites as well. So that's definitely something to look out for. So I kind of had that 2-for-1 with the modernized maker experience security settings, because that kind of ties into that what you mentioned about the simple sharing as a Word document, to be able to configure the security role settings in Power Apps with using the new security role editor. But also something that caught my eye was visualize and work across complex data relationships with support from Copilot. And what this means, when you read the description here, this is public preview in April. And it says that we're going to get a new data modeling experience through a Visivig editor. What you see is what you get, where you can create multiple tables with relationships from scratch, external data sources, or conversational with the assistance of a Copilot. Now, we're going to have a new editor, a WYSIWYG editor, where we can see and create tables with relationships. I'm done. I'm just, when I read that, I was like, okay, this is all I need. If I had this, then all of the rest of the news and updates could just be whatever it was. Doesn't matter. This is, to me, yes. So thank you,
Yes.
Microsoft. And yes, you would love this feature. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of these. Well, this is something I think if the way they describe it, I think of like Microsoft Access, where you could have the tables and you could draw the relationships, or in Power BI when you're doing your data modeling and there to draw the tables and you draw the links, but just have that visualization as well. Like I know there's XRM Toolbox that can generate that. I know there's other tools I've used like Mermaid where you can kind of describe and draw those things, but that's always been a proactive approach. Or of course Visio as well, draw the boxes and do the links. So the getting little pop-ups that just distracting me. Ooh, shiny. But to me, like if you think about the meeting we had, like just to peel the covers back a little bit, we had a project meeting last week where we were trying to decipher a very, very complex data model, but it had to be to address the business requirements. And we were trying to follow the lines and trying to understand how certain things would work. So to be able to help with the design of that, visualize that, and that's what we had to do. We had to kind of draw little lines and understand the relationships a little bit better. And we worked through the problem because we're smart people and we were able to talk it through. But having tools like this is just going to make that so much easier in the future. So I did highlight that one as well. I am super excited about this one as well. I think this probably is going to be the top thing that pops out in these release plans, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. And I hope for dear God that it is that we get a Visivic editor where we can actually do stuff also, that it's not just reliant on the Copilot prompting for us to make changes. And it does seem like that when it says a Visivic editor and a ERD, a entity relationship diagram. And so yes, let's just fingers crossed that we're not dependent on the Copilot to make changes for that.
No, and again,
Um,
this is where Copilot should be co-pilot and not pilot. I think having a co-pilot to give us, are you sure you want to do this relationship? This might work better. I mean, that's cool, but I also want to
mm,
say, thank you for your input, Copilot. Now just go away. Or or you're like, hey, that is actually smart. This would make it easier. That is giving it a due set of eyes on it. So yeah, you're right. Hopefully it is, as they say, a co-pilot and not a just prompt your way through it, because that's going to turn into a mess, in my opinion. So
yeah.
yeah, looking forward to this.
Yeah. And so next product out is Power Pages. That's probably our home base. What did you have in Mark? That's your favorite update.
There, interesting enough, there wasn't a lot this time around in Power Pages, but again, sometimes it's the small things that make the big impact. And to me, it's along a lot of the terms of the ALM and some of the developer experiences, like the performing website actions using the Microsoft Power Platform CLI, where you can begin to add a lot of scripts to do things like deploy Power Pages websites and run the site checker and develop some of these flows. Where right now, like interesting enough, on the project, we're working on, I went through and manually created Power Pages sites and the dev and the prod, the UAT and all these different places so we could, deploy to them properly and that kind of thing. And I did, use that using the solution method. But I think it'd be cool. Think of a developer that said, "Oh, we need, down the road, we need to create, make some updates to this site." Well, okay, we need to set up the developer environment. We need to set up the website. We need to import it. We need to make sure this and this. If I can just run a script and say, "Oh, you need a developer environment pointed to our source control," like click. With these tools, we should now be able to do that. I should be able to run a script to go through and do a lot of these manual tasks and deploy a portal and get everything set up and ready to go. So then the developers or the builders can go in and start doing their stuff really quickly. So, like I said, little things, but they have a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and infrastructure as code, right? That's what we want. We just want
Mhm.
to script this and then reuse that for every project because we do need all of those environments and all of that set up anyways the next time around. So it's yeah, I agree. It's a good enhancement. For me, there wasn't really a lot that stood out other than the file upload enhancement for Power Pages sites, which is GA in May.
Mhm.
Just the ability to see the files and be able to upload files properly and to see that media library that you're so used to when you have a website. You can always, navigate to that folder where you have your media library and be able to handle your files that way is really something that's been missing. And that it's what is it, 2.5 years since Power Pages came along, or 1.5 years? I can't remember. But it's been missing. So it's good to see that that's coming. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that
What
was
about
that
Power
was it.
Automate?
Like, no, I just want to still talk about the file upload thing. That is something that I know when I was at Microsoft, and not that I dealt a lot with customer things, but I got involved in some conversations. That was a bit of a pain point about right now uploading files in the process and where you can go and what locations and all of this stuff. But here I think definitely is, I know that there was a big ask to improve this area, because I mean a lot of the other website tools kind of have this by default already. So it's nice to see that this is getting some love and attention in the Power Pages space.
Yeah, and it feels weird when I have to go on the page and add an image to a section and then upload a new image to get that uploaded to my site to use somewhere else in my code. That just feels like a hack, like a workaround. It doesn't have to be that way. And for us to be able to upload SVGs, for instance, and the favicons, those kinds of things. Oh, now I'm getting into a rant. I feel I'm getting all excited and worked up. I'm gonna
That's
breathe.
good.
Kumbaya.
This podcast is all about therapy. So just let it out.
One of these episodes, we're going to bring in a guest from Microsoft product team and just rant, just empty out all the things that we have in our heads, and they can just take it in and put it in the backlog. How's that? That would be fantastic.
We'll do this in the fullness of time, or we'll take a note. We'll get back to you on that.
Oh, we've been a whole episode, and we could bring Dilip on, because then we would get some other answers as well. Oh, just knocked something over. Sorry. Okay, moving on before I get into another rant. Power Automate Cloud Flows. Do you have anything particular that stood out for you?
It seems to be, lots of stuff there coming along. Of course, like Copilots is really built into that. I played a bit with the Copilots already in Power Automate, which I do like. It does, help out, especially if you're kind of stuck on a particular trigger or action. Like, okay, how does this work again? But one thing that kind of popped out, and which is funny because licensing usually doesn't make it into the release plans, but this had a feature about the intelligent license recommendation, because I don't think they've necessarily changed the licenses for Power Automate. They're going to be having a little bit stricter enforcement, I think, in the future, which I think is going to catch a few people off guard. And to be honest, it kind of caught me off guard as well, because I just assumed it's like, oh, if I'm building an app, I can, add, all the Power Automate within the context of my Power Apps per premium license. And then that's not really the case. If it ties into an app, for sure, it's cool, which most of my flows are. But if you have a flow kind of sitting on the outside of that, then that needs to be licensed separately. My understanding, I'm not a licensing expert. So having something here that kind of highlights these things a little bit proactively, I think is kind of critical, especially if people are trying stuff out or they have that expectation their app will work and then for some reason it won't, or they need to buy extra licensing. That could be a bit of a surprise. So this I think, is a good feature to have.
Yeah, and it's public preview in April. And for what we can read, it seems like admins can list users needing a license based on actual requests they made, or their trial usage, or their attempt to accessing premium features. So this is something for the admin to actually get that kind of recommendation based on actual usage in their systems. So for us, like Itero, we're kind of scaling up and ramping up, and I see my colleagues going in and making all kinds of messes, and I have really no insights into who is really required to have those kind of licensing or not. So this is a huge improvement for the admin side of things. And I did have this as one of my favorites as well. So then I can throw in something else. I saw that now, the Power Automate process mining.
Yes.
We saw a demo on that in Las Vegas, and that was so cool, except for the fact that they uploaded an Excel spreadsheet, and I was like, wah, 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 wah. But now you can ingest process data from customers' data lake in the process mining. And that's a huge improvement then as GA in April. And I know the people diving into the process mining can't wait to be able to connect that directly to your data lake. So that must be a huge improvement for those who are working on that. So there you go. Just a bonus thing. Yeah.
I see
Next
how you
up
did it. You
is
snuck it
Microsoft.
in.
Yes, that's why you go first. So if you pick one of mine, then I can just sneak something else in there. Haven't you noticed?
Perfect.
This is
Yeah,
you're learning
I
this
see.
now.
You have a strategy here.
Yes,
Oh
I
yeah,
do. Microsoft Copilot Studio. Quiz time. What is it? What is the previous name of Microsoft Copilot Studio?
This was the product formerly known as Power Virtual Agents. And I
Yes, it
mentioned that to
was.
somebody the
And
other day. It's like, oh, Microsoft Copilot Studio, and they're like, what's that? And I go, it's PVA.
Mhm.
And like, Power Virtual Agents? It's like, yeah, like Microsoft renamed something, like, the Microsoft renaming iRoll again.
So
But
when are we going to call that MCS? When do you think that's going to catch on? MCS, PVA. That we kind of get used to that, and then that could mean progressive web apps. But then now it's supposed to be, if we short it down, MCS. That can be so many things.
maybe because my MCS also stands for Microsoft Consulting Services.
For
So,
instance, that's one.
but
And then it's confusing that this is a product because it sounds like a studio. PVA was more of a service or a product, but Microsoft Copilot Studio just seems like an interface or so it is confusing. But that's
well,
what it's called, Microsoft Copilot Studio.
yeah, but Power Pages, it's a product, but you build websites, or Power Automate, you build flows. Like, so here you build chatbots.
What about Microsoft Power Copilot? Was
Probably
that
probably
stolen? Because
someone owned the name of.
someone owned the domain. Oh, this is funny.
So,
Okay, so what's your top pick for Microsoft Copilot Studio then?
um, a couple. Well, one thing that I thought was interesting, and again, this is like little things that you would think that was already there, but actually weren't. So this gets added to the release plans. Was the ability to the import and export topics across copilots and environments. Like, wait a minute, you mean you couldn't do this before? That to me was like, wait a minute. So how would so I did create one in dev and like, oh, you have to recreate it in prod? Like that is so 1990s. So
Oh, maybe
anyways,
you
no,
can
it's
import
cool.
an Excel spreadsheet and then import it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is why that stood out to me. It's just sort of like, really? That didn't exist? But
Yeah. It says Copilot Studio enables customer to export and import topics across Copilots and across environments. So it is still an export import job. So maybe now you can export to Excel and import from Excel. Maybe. Oh,
yeah.
wow. So next time around, you'll be able to add it to solutions and then move it like the rest
Yes.
of everything else. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Okay. I chose something else. I have to choose because I actually chose two. Okay, I'm gonna go with the speech and IVR.
Mm.
Use interactive voice response IVR with Omnichannel for customer service, and this is GA in April. And native voice integration with Microsoft Copilot Studio. It will enable you to make bot that you can speak to. And for me, we have Google Home here in my house, and I didn't say hello, so that's okay. And we're kind of yeah. Did I trigger yours? Okay, good.
No,
Maybe
mine's quiet. I was funny because you said it, I looked at mine too, and it's
maybe if we do say it and then people play this in their house and we can actually
oh.
automate and turn people's lights off. That would be so
So,
fun.
hey Google,
Hey,
subscribe to the Power Platform Boost podcast.
uh,
So
well, I was going to turn people's lights off, but yours is better. No, but the idea, because it's stupid and it doesn't get any smarter and it's kind of pissing me off. And so if I can then now kind of make my own, because that's what this reads to me is
mm,
this is the start of being able to create your own Google Home or
mm,
Alexa, or whatever you want, your flavor, whatever you need. So to me, because I'm waiting on Bard, the chat bot for Google's kind of Google Home, or the chat GTP for in Google is called Bard. And I'm waiting for that to be able to be available for Google Home, and it's not going to be anytime soon. So this means I can maybe start creating my own. We'll see.
interesting. You talk about so Google Bard. Is that available in your country?
Um, yeah, I think it is. I haven't really dived into, because the only thing I've checked is if I'm able to connect it to my Google Home so that I can use that intelligence and that kind of generative AI experience to talk to make my Google Home smarter. But but it can't. So I didn't dive further into Bard. But do you have access to Bard
No,
in
Google
your
Bard
country?
is not available in Canada.
Ah,
And
yeah,
if
our
there's
countries are
political
very particular.
reasons for that, I
Mm.
thank you, Justin, for all that you don't do well. That's the only political statement I'll say. So,
Yes,
anyways, yeah,
that
we
goes
can't
for
get
now.
Google Bard here. So,
And actually, talking of what the whatnots and countries and what we're allowed to, I saw that actually Norway is mentioned in the release notes because there's
yes,
something that's going to be released in Norway. I don't remember what it was.
it's the, this is, sorry, that was my segue before I got distracted. It
Oh,
is, it was use Copilot Studio in United Arab Emirates, South America, Germany, South Korea, Norway, and South Africa. So you'll have access to Copilot Studio on your Norwegian environments, not just the
but you know what? Norwegian's environment sucks because you didn't get access to anything, so no one's using it. It's only Europe here, so it doesn't really matter. And I made a big deal about Par Pages not being available in Norway as well, just a couple of months ago, and I haven't seen any updates on that either. So no, who cares? Basically,
but
you're
but
lost.
these things they this is how they gets better. They keep adding things like Copilot Studio, Power Pages. Like this will all be like, a year from now we'll talk about the Norway environment, and like of course everything's going to be there. So it'll be fine.
Yeah, well, this is another one of those things that are not prohibiting us from choosing a Norwegian region down the line. See,
Right.
good, perfect. Thank you, Microsoft. Okay, next product up, AI Builder. Yeah, do
So
have you ever used AI Builder in a project?
no, and I've pitched it a couple times because I want to, and I came close once on a project where there was a lot of data collection happening out in the field, and they had to go through a lot of data, and I'm kind of my eyes lit up like, ooh, you could use AI Builder. I think it was the text or the word processing or something, the keyword, whatever the proper name for it is, and there was some interest, and we were about ready to build a POC, and then at that time the licensing was still, well, this is a good segue. It ties into what my thing I picked was, because the licensing was prohibitive. You needed to do at that time quite a bit of an investment in a subscription in order to get this feature. Now they have improved that a little bit, so you do get I think a small amount of AI Builder credits with your Power Apps premium license, enough to get you started to make, it's like a drug dealer. Here's a little bit and get you hooked. And then you go in. But it's kind of smart because that way you've proven the concept, where if you got to pay for it up front, then it's like, well, we're not sure. But going into one of the things I highlighted was the ability to enable pay as you go for AI Builder. Now, what I
Mm.
like about the the pay as you go, you do overall you pay kind of on a per quantity basis. You pay a bit more, but you kind of only
Mm.
pay for what you use as opposed to buying a bunch up front. So think of like an electricity bill. Um, you get your electricity bill every month, and if it's like at your place a cold month and you have to thaw out your driveway, it's going to cost more because you're using a lot more. Where if it's the summertime and you don't use as much, your bill goes down. So that's kind of the pay as you go concept, where the if a lot of the licensing, the way it works with Microsoft is you pay per month a set fee. So it's kind of, think of it like your Netflix or your cable bill, where I'm paying this much per month and I'm able to do all this stuff. So maybe I don't use much AI Builder this month, so I don't have to pay as much. I mean, the Power Apps has this, Power Pages has this, I think, yeah, in certain situations. So there is that. That did kind of highlight that pay as you go with the AI Builder. So it all sort of ties in back to, yes, I would love to use AI Builder in a project, and now it's much less of a barrier for entry.
Mm. Yeah, I do agree on that, and I think it's also just on the drug kind of analogy. If you leave your card in the bar and then you just drink as much as you want, and then that's kind of pay as you go. Or you can buy up front. You can buy for the whole place, and you have that big tray of shots, and then you bring it, and then maybe you spill, and maybe not everything's drunk, and then you see. It's also a way
Yep.
to look at it. I like that. Yeah, good. No, but overall, AI governance and administration, there's a lot of things to look out for here. So if you're using AI Builder, there's so many new capabilities coming this release wave that will make it easier for admins and governance. So capacity management, usage monitoring, ALM tooling, access control, sharing and deploying AI models and prompts. So many things to look out for. And I did also highlight that. And also, yeah, the new AI capacity management experience for admins, because I've seen the same thing you've seen, that yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And as soon as the customer understands that they don't have to know how to write algorithms to use AI Builder, they're suddenly, they're open for it. But then they see what it costs, and then that's a showstopper usually. So we've been using it for a lot of internal things at the companies that I worked at, but not in the customer project. And also, I saw something around author power cards with GPT prompts. That's GPT Prompt Builder. It's a part of AI Builder. And it's a new Prompt Builder is a new AI Builder's interface that allow you to build, test, and deploy GPT prompts. And there's a new interface that allow you to create custom interfaces or custom cards to display certain responses to certain prompts. So that's something new. It's coming in public preview in May. And a lot of these announcements were GA and public preview from March till May. So definitely a lot of things to look out for if you're into AI Builder.
I think AI Builder was one of the biggest sections in this release plans.
Yeah.
In terms of features and stuff, which is cool because I think poor AI Builder kind of got pushed a little bit to the side with the wave of Copilot things, but really they're all tied together, right? So it is, it's exciting to see.
And maybe if they're kicking Power BI out, then AI can get its own logo up and with the rest of the
Get
big
promoted
guys.
from
Like
the supporting
yeah,
services to I'm for that.
yeah.
Let's
I hope that. Yeah.
let's make sign like when we go to
We
MVP
don't have
Summit
to.
in March, we'll make signs and march around the building. Yeah.
We have to edit. We have to then fix the color in this because that's Power BI. The B in our logo is the Power BI yellow.
We needed to
Then we
fix
have to
that
change
anyway.
our tattoo. I just realized. All right, we go to Vegas and we edit that out, and then we have to change the color. The yellow color is actually not very visible, anyways, and I'm very curious to see what happens when I get my tan in the summer, because that the yellow is so bleak that doesn't really show. But if AI Builder, I can't really remember what color that is. Maybe we can change the B to that color, and it will be more
Yeah,
visible.
for Builder, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Dear Microsoft, we would love for AI Builder to be this color.
Yes. Fix our tattoos. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
speaking
Next
of,
up is Dataverse.
yeah, I was about to say, speaking of tattoos, because our good friend Chris Huntingford has a Dataverse logo tattooed to his leg.
Yeah.
So big thing, actually, as much as we did talk about the what you see is what you get designer in Dataverse, the one thing that popped out at me, which I got super excited about because I have fought with this before, is the efficient processing for apps with delegation in Dataverse. Now, as a model driven app guy, this is something we never had to worry about. It's like, you have a million rows? No problem. Boom, there's your view. It's all paged out. We can look through the data. We can search the data. It's all cool. Canvas apps, you get this stupid little yellow thing when you're building your Canvas app and your Power Effects formula, and it's like, oh, this might cause delegation issues, and you might be running into delegation. And I'm like, what? So you dig into it, and just be in terms of the retrieving data, it can retrieve only 500 records, and 500 records, that's a drop in a bucket compared to some of our clients' Dataverse tables. And then, you can up it to 2,000. And so normally I would do that. And even on some of the apps I built for myself in terms of my own project management and time tracking, everything, I ran into this delegation issue. All of a sudden, these lookups quit working because it exceeded the number of records it could retrieve. I couldn't find things. So you need to go through these little workarounds and hops to address these delegation issues. And there's tons of YouTube videos and blogs on how to go around this. And to me, I always found this very awkward, but it looks like they're addressing it. So we don't need to worry about so much about these little delegation issues. I'm hoping these little yellow warnings will just go away and I can just connect to my data sources and happily build my apps and everything will be wonderful. So this to me was very welcome news coming for
Did,
Dataverse.
did it say anything about when it's coming?
I'm sure it
Did you see any
did. And
date?
then as you scolded me for not putting in the
Mm-hmm.
dates,
Mm-hmm. Again, it's like you've never done this before.
we only did it once before.
Yeah. I did scold you about the same thing then, so I thought maybe you learned, but you didn't. It's fine.
Oh,
Because I've
public
seen
pre
things that are,
public preview
yep,
in March 2024. So happy birthday, Nick, and general availability in April 2024. So
perfect.
yes.
Because that is important. Because we've seen things. If we see some announcement and you're very excited about it, and it says September, it's not going to happen this year. So it is
Or
important.
worse, to be announced.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so what I picked for Dataverse is associate activities with multiple related records. And this is something that should be lighting up in your tenant any day now because it says Power Preview in December 2023 and GA in April. So maybe the public preview is kicking in here and there. And this means that you can actually now create a relationship between activity records like emails and appointments and tasks and calls with activity participants, parties, such as accounts and contacts and leads and everything else, with more than one. So this is exciting news, and this is
Mhm.
also a little new. So I like this, and this is the one I picked.
No, I saw that as well, and that kind of goes back to a lot of my CRM type days and things like that, where we want to track an email. Well, I always kind of instructed the users, track it to the case or track it to the opportunity or track it to the custom table that we created. That's really the core of whatever your business app is. There is that link to that contact, but they say, well, if this email relates to two different projects, and then it's sort of like, well, if you link it to one, you can't link it to another, and it becomes, you kind of lose a lot of the integrity of what you want to do. So yeah, this was something I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. The whole activity pointer emails to link to different things. It's still, I find, a little bit awkward, and I think it just goes back to how way back probably to the CRM version 1 days of when they're trying to link it and do the integration with Outlook and everything. So to traverse those tables and understand how the activity pointers work, and there's also some security issues, it's still not perfect. It's still a little clunky, especially for new people coming into Dataverse who have not had that Dynamics 365 experience. They're kind of like, well, this data model doesn't make sense. And my answer is that you're right, it doesn't, but it just kind of works. So it's nice to
Mm-hmm.
see this area getting one of these older features getting a little bit of love. So it's good.
Yeah, I agree. And it says that public preview will only support email, so that's kind of a caveat that you need to look out for. But this is something that's coming, so that's
But
very good. And
but
if you
but
can
what
hear
about
a
fax?
noise,
You mean it
facts.
doesn't? It won't support fax?
What? No, email is out. It should support, I don't know, interactive voice calls from Omnichannel. That's
Okay,
what they should start with. Email is so last year. Do you use email? Or it's going.
all
Yeah,
the
I
time.
hear emails going away. It's very old.
I've
No one
heard that
sees
for
me
years.
anymore.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And if you can hear someone screaming and yelling in the background, it's just it's Norway's completely covered in ice today, so everything's canceled, and the kids are home from school, and we're home from work, and everything. So he's playing Mario Kart downstairs, and he's been quiet for 20 minutes, no, 39 minutes. So he's kind of hitting my. This is my 6-year-old. He's kind of hitting that threshold where he can't stay quiet anymore. We're gonna have to wrap this up. And we only have one product group left to go. And this is the last section of the release note. And it's Microsoft Power Platform governance and administration. So what's your favorite pick here, Nick?
Nothing. Well, I would say nothing super big jumped out onto that whole governance thing. I did notice there was a lot about security, about limiting with the IP firewalls, stopping cookie replay attacks. Um, you know, just in terms of a lot of admin stuff, but there seemed to be a good theme on security, which is good because every so often, I know in projects or talking to new customers, they're always that, well, is this secure? And like, yes, it is. It's a secure environment. It goes back to, hey, is my stuff in the cloud secure? And there was something earlier that was also part of Dataverse is the fact that they're going to be scanning for viruses for uploaded files, and then they'll
Mm.
actually quarantine those particular files. So that, I think that ties into that security as well. So that to me was, yeah, this is something that is, definitely important. Especially this comes up in the Power Pages conversations as well. Like, how do we stop someone from if they need to upload files? How do we stop someone from uploading a virus? Is there a way to detect that? So it's nice to see that these features are getting built into the ecosystem as well.
Yeah. And another, yeah, it was a lot of things around security and security roles and the modern UI. Also, I find there's so many enhancements coming here. Take advantage of modern user interface is one of the highlights, where admins can take advantage of the new AI with access to team templates and manage security fields for sharing user records, delete users, configure column level security, and hide sensitive data, redirect all traffic from legacy UI to modern UI. So we'll see if the legacy UI goes away or not. We have, it's like we talked about, I think, yesterday, where you said that, there are still things that you have to go into the legacy app to do. And it's still asking you, why are you going into the legacy app? Well, because I can't do what I want to do in the new modern experience. So maybe this is enhancements that will make sure that we can do everything in the modern UI soon.
Yeah, and that's an interesting. I do want to point out that if you do need to go to that back to the classic interface, which you do for certain things, even though some of the documentation says you don't, but you do, and you get that little pop up. Like, don't just start like ranting and swearing. Be very specific. Say, I need to go back to do blah 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 because this doesn't work in the new, or this doesn't exist. They will actually read that information, and the team should be aware of everything by now, but it is sometimes a nice little reminder of, well, why, and that's the reason it's there. So provide that feedback. I know it's an extra second, and but if you have to go back to the classic interface, you're probably already in an elevated state going, oh, I got to go back to the old one. But put the
You've
reason
been
why you're
looking up.
doing it. And I do it all the time. I say, I'm going back because the embedded Canvas apps does not work through the new interface. I'm running into problems. This is why I'm going back to the old one. Or, I need to do this to a view and I can't do this in the new interface. Or I need to do, something on a form. And you do notice that in the new experience, they have added features to address it. Like the biggest thing was I couldn't view hidden fields in the new form designer up until about a year ago. Then they added that feature because that was a reason why people were going back to the classic editor. So put in the reasons. I'm not saying I was the reason they did that, but I think the accumulation of feedback moved them to add that feature.
Yeah, definitely. Speak up, and the more the merrier. So, yes, I know it takes patience, but it's worth it if that means that it's getting improved.
Yeah.
Right. So we're coming to the end of the list. Is there anything else you wanted to highlight, or anything else you've noticed or noted that you didn't get to speak about?
That you didn't let me speak about? Yeah. Let me see. No. There was
Giving you-
there was definitely a lot of extra stuff in here. Like, so I think really we scratched the surface on some of these things. I do recommend you go in and take a scan through that document or upload it to the AI tool of your choice. If you have Bard in your area, great, use that, or use ChatGPT or Bing, and just say, give me a summary or give me the highlights, or give me the features that relate to Power Automate, for instance, because that could, give you the summary that you need. This is what these tools are meant for. So that would be, my recommendation to read through it. But we wanted to at least give you the highlights that affected us, because I think you and I working in projects, these are probably the things that a lot of other people are going to be wanting to be aware of as well. So hopefully you found good value in this particular episode of our podcast for that.
Yeah, definitely. And before we wrap up, we wanted to just shout out a couple of events that we're going to. You're coming over here very soon for ACDC. We're going head to head. It's a 3-day hackathon here in Oslo. It's so much fun. I know that you kind of picked the speakers for Canadian Power Platform Summit, so I'm very excited to see if I got in, if I'm going to be a speaker. And then and we both are going to Color Cloud in Hamburg in April. That is April,
Yes.
right? I'm kind of yes.
Yeah,
I need
it's
to.
mid-April, and the we've been chatting with the organizers. The organizers wanted us to pass along the message to let our listeners know, if you're thinking of going there, there is a ticket fee with this, and the early bird is ending the end of January. So if you're planning on coming to Hamburg to see, to join, maybe to join a workshop on Power Pages the day before, or
Maybe
to
during the
to
session of Fire Pages.
yeah, or
And
other
the day
stuff.
after. Yeah,
Yep.
we know we talked to a lot of the community people, and we've seen the lineup, and it's going to be a blast. I know, and being in the speaker dinner, that's also fun when you see all the speakers on the list. I'm really excited about that, and I know that a couple of our community friends are coming as attendees, and we get to meet people that we've talked to in person for the first time. Hi, Tino,
Yep.
and we get to see each other, and we get to travel to Hamburg, which I've learned is in Germany, and in the middle box.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's all
And
good and fun, and it's such a cool community event.
yeah, and the other event that is coming up, you mentioned the Canadian Power Platform Summit. So we are going to be opening registration early, a little bit later this week. There is going to be it's not a small fee, but that's just to make sure that people are going to show up and cover a few things like some of the lunch and putting on. This is like, it's a not-for-profit event, like all these are community events, but there is a cost involved with this. So really looking forward to folks in Vancouver, and that's March 15th and 16th. There's going to be workshops the day before as well, and then there's going to be a full day of session. I've seen the lineup. The first round of speaker confirmations has went out, so Alika, check your inbox. Just saying.
Really?
And um, and then that way, and then hopefully we'll have the lineup sorted in the next really shortly, so you'll be able to see. But I can just tell you now, it's going to be totally worth it. We're covering a lot of interesting things in the Power Platform. It's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, definitely keep an eye open for that. Plus, there's other events happening as well, but we're over time.
Way over.
So
So we'll have
yeah,
to wait until next episode to say that. And next episode is actually we're recording that while you're here. So hopefully the next episode will be in person again. And that's
yes,
going to be so much fun. And we're
because
going
there
to
was
be very hungover and very tired after a week of hacking at ACDC.
yeah, we'll talk a lot about ACDC on our next episode, and well as news and updates. There was like we talked about the release plans, but there was a lot of, even with the release plans, there's a lot of other news and updates that happened in the last 2 weeks. That probably one of the bigger ones is around the Microsoft 365 Copilot. We'll talk more about that because that is something I subscribe to because I can now as a one-person company. So I'll kind of give a bit of a feedback on that. Plus updates from the 90-day mentoring challenge. That's moving along. So a lot of cool things happening there. So we have a lot of stuff already planned for our next episode.
Definitely. I can't wait. And until then, take care and don't slip and don't break anything and be safe, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Right. We'll talk. Bye. Oh, and our next episode is. Did you hit the button yet?
Nope.
Oh, this is awesome. Our next episode will be released on February 7th. Perfect. Talk to you then.
Talk to you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. And if you like this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. Make sure to leave a rating and review of your favorite streaming service, and makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on the social media platforms and make sure you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your hosts Ulrika Åkerbeck and Nick Dolman, and see you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news.